Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Anil Joshi. Welcome you to my series that is Learn Radiology with Dr. Anil Joshi, and today's topic is on conventional radiology, that is barium examination of stomach, duodenum and small bowel. It is considered that this test is no more required and there are no more indication for this test. But through this series, we'll know that this series still is required and there are certain indication in which we do have to perform this test, and this test do give us good amount of information. Now, before going to the details of this series, let's see some disclosure, acknowledgement and disclaimers. Most of the illustrations, that is the films, are our own. However, certain illustrative material, that is the slides, are from our departmental collection, which is going on since many years in different department. I have worked in different medical colleges as the professor and HOD, so the departmental teaching material has come partly in it, or the films are from the different institutes. There is certain material which is borrowed from the net, and we have confirmed it that it is the royalty free or it is not having any payment on it. With this acknowledgement, disclosure and disclaimers, we'll go to the series itself. So today's series is a gastrointestinal tract special procedure. Let's go to the introduction. Now, modalities and techniques. What are the modalities for investigation of a alimentary tract or GIT? That is plain radiograph, barium examination, sonography, so also CT scan, then there are nowadays MRI and also PET scan. These are the different modalities which we use for evaluating diseases of GIT. Now let us concentrate only at the barium studies in this series. Now barium tests are used to see the outline of the upper GIT, that is gastrointestinal tract, mainly esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and also to image lower gastrointestinal tract like large bowel. Now barium tests are usually done as an outpatient department. Now patient attend the X-ray department at appointment time and leave soon after the test. In other words, these tests are performed on OPD basis and there is no hospitalization required to perform this test. They are on OPD basis. Patient leaves immediately after the tests are over. Now what are the type of barium tests we are performing? Depending on the area of interest, the barium tests are performed since it coats the lining of the gut being tested while traveling, and it reveals the abnormalities in the lining or the structure of the gut. For this purpose, several X-ray pictures are taken using low dose X-rays. The total amount of radiation for each test is quite small and safe. The X-ray machine is usually linked to a TV monitor for obtaining still pictures or videos of the procedure. Now aftercare, the patient should be warned that this bowel motion will be white, that is, he will have white stool for few days after the examination and may be difficult for him to flush it away. The patient should be advised to eat and drink normally and avoid barium impaction. Laxatives may be taken if required. So here is a role of asking a patient whether he had any bowel complaints. If patient has problem in emptying or evacuating his bowel, then we have to see that laxatives are given and he is warned that for a couple of days there will be a white stool for 1 or 2 days. Patient must not leave the department until blurring of the vision produced by Buscopan has been resolved. Use of Buscopan is mainly as a smooth muscle relaxant, antispasmodic. This is not routinely used, but whenever you use it, there has to be a watch on the patient for two things. One thing is retention of the urine in elderly and a blurring of vision, which sometimes can occur. This is a totally temporary phenomena and patient should be consulted before the examination, and he can wait in the department till his blurring of the eye disappears, in case if we have used Buscopan, which is not a routine nowadays. The Buscopan is not used routinely. Now, leakage of barium from unsuspected perforations. For that, we always take a scout film and see that there are no perforation. Aspiration of stomach content due to Buscopan. Now, this is another thing which can be easily settled while performing the test. We should take proper care that in case patient gets sensation of vomiting, he should be given appropriate kidney trays or something of that sort to vomit. Then conversation of patient, then we can convert sometime a partial obstruction into complete obstruction. So a scout film is always taken to know whether there is subacute obstruction or partial obstruction. In case if there is a partial or subtotal obstruction which is revealed by the plain X-ray, a care should be taken to see that the total obstruction will not occur because of the barium, because barium has got a tendency for impaction. Then barium appendicitis, if barium impacts in the appendix, is extremely rare and hardly anywhere it is reported, but it's a theoretical complication which we must know, we must keep in mind. Then what are the contraindication? Suspected cases of gastroduodenal perforations. This is always ruled out before performing a test by us by taking a scout film. Now, history or suspicion of aspiration. First we ask patient is whether he can swallow properly. It's a part of counseling before any of the tests to ask patient what are his complaints. One of his complaint is swallowing difficulty or to get coughing after the swallowing. Then we must take care to see that patient will not aspirate. In that case, we have a close observation on him, or we may, if it is very serious condition, then we may abandon the barium procedure of stomach and duodenum, or we can replace it with a water soluble contrast examination, which is safe even if patient absorbs it. So a large bowel obstruction can occur because of barium inspission. Now, fistulous communication within any organs other than part of GIT can occur because of the barium, but these are the extremely rare complications and none of them occurs because of the barium. But if already they are existing, then one must take care not to do barium. Now, recent history of biopsy from GIT, as barium granulomas can occur at the site of biopsy. This care has to be taken. Now, what is the preparation of patient? Is as routine. We have to keep patient NBM for at least 6 hours. Then there should not be any smoking, because smoking increases the gastric secretions, and if there are gastric secretions, then we may get not proper coating of the stomach. There will be flocculation of barium. Then take proper history, that is mainly diabetes mellitus or any drug intake, because NBM for last 6 hours in diabetic patient may create a problem. In that case, we have to schedule his test after the meal, leave 6 hours in between, or ask patient to take early morning breakfast, leave 6 hours, and then we can perform the test. In gastric outlet obstruction, prolonged fasting or IV metoclopramide and sometimes the other drugs may be used. If they are used by the patient before coming to the radiology department, then can be a prolonged gastric emptying time. Now, preparation of patient is, sometimes if we find that we are given a barium but patient start vomiting, in that condition nasogastric intubation is used to aspirate the content, and that is one of the most important steps to prevent further aspiration or other side effects of the barium. Now, what are the types and methods of barium meal? Are the single contrast. It uses only a radio opaque or positive contrast media. That is low density barium suspension, around 80 to 100 weight by volume is used, and 30% weight by volume suspension is used for high kV low contrast examination. Now, double contrast is usually done with the help of barium coating and air. Now, it uses barium as a radiolucent or positive contrast media, such as it uses barium, that is for coating the walls, and then a radiolucent negative contrast media, which is usually air, nitrogen or carbon dioxide. The easiest or cheapest is to get carbon dioxide from the effervescent agents, which are easily available and they are without any harmful effect. Now let's come to stomach. Now, gross anatomy of the stomach. The stomach is divided into 4 sections. Each of has got different cells and functions. The functions are, one thing is cardia is the upper part of stomach, then is the fundus is formed by the upper curvature of the organ, then the body or the corpus is the main, that is central region, and is the pylorus or antrum, the lower section of the organs. Now these are the part of stomach. Now what are the types of stomach? As we are seeing here is a steer horn. These are a shape of stomach. Then second is J-shaped. Third is cascade type. And fourth is fish hook type. Now these are normal variants of the stomach which can be seen in barium, and they should not be mistaken for the pathological entities. The technique of barium differs especially when there is a stomach which is cascade type, because it empties like cup and saucer. So certain maneuvers of the patient needs to be done for getting barium out of the stomach dependent area. Now the procedure. Conventional single contrast study. Radiography is done at 80 to 90 kV in erect position or in supine position or in decubitus position. Then the fluoroscopy is done to visualize both domes of diaphragm, lung base to detect any pathology. Stomach and intestines are seen, or there are any fluid levels. So these things are usually done under the fluoroscopy. In fluoroscopy, you have to observe how the barium progresses and how it is opacified. Now for that, 20 to 15 ml of 18 to 100% of the barium is given, and patient is made to swallow while esophagus is seen under the fluoroscopy with the table horizontal and patient lying supine. Then patient is rotated to right side. Now the patient is rotated in a continuous clockwise manner so as to get a continuous mucosal good coating of the entire stomach, and radiography is done to show mucosal patterns. Now what we have to do is first give barium to the patient, then follow it under the fluoroscopy, see that it reaches the stomach. Once it reaches the stomach, you maneuver him by rotation in such a way that entire barium coats the stomach wall and it start getting into the duodenum. The moment it start getting into the duodenum, we have to stop delivering from mouth further barium, and then radiography for the mouth is to be done, for the stomach is to be done with the help of 80 to 90 kVs under the fluoroscopy. Now if you give less MAs, the peristaltic movement and patient's movement will not hamper and will get a clear picture. Patient is in supine position, spot film of barium filled fundus in varying obliquity may be taken. If any abnormality is detected with the table horizontal, patient is made prone, oblique, right side, depend on the circumstances and depending on the indication. Now the barium enters the duodenum, the spot film for duodenum bulb and C loop can be taken after adjusting the obliquity in both distended and empty phases. So we have to take two phases. One thing is the filled duodenum and second is the empty. Patient in supine position and table made erect, spot films of the duodenum bulb and C loop are taken in right anterior oblique position. Compressing spot film of the duodenum may be taken if required. Now you have to collect what is the earlier structure of a machine. There was a spot film device and there was a divider which can take 4 spots, and it had a cone-like structure which can compress duodenum. So it was very easy to get the compressed films of duodenum, particularly for a duodenal bulb, because it was separating the remaining overimposing barium from the stomach or further small bowel. Now more barium is given to distend stomach wall. Standard filming of the esophagus may be done now while giving the barium, but that we have seen when we have seen the barium swallow examination. Now here, once the coating is made properly, we take the films. If required, we give more barium, or in required, we stop the delivery of barium. Now graded compression is given to see the mucosal fold and spot films and may be taken if required. All things depend on the fluoroscopic observations. There is no standard fixed rule, neither of the department nor of the any standard textbook describes it. We have to follow our own method. Each patient has got different methods and all are guided by the fluoroscopy. So how it moves in a fluoroscopy. Now patient is rotated under fluoroscopy to observe all margins of the stomach so that anterior and posterior located lesions cannot be missed. First, you make up your mind as to where the pathology is by coating the barium properly. Then, in erect position, right anterior oblique view of the stomach is taken. For incisura angularis, the proximal jejunum is also seen to evaluate retrogastric space. Now again further 200 to 250 ml of barium is given in supine position and films can be taken in translateral position. This is all depend on your fluoroscopic observations. You have to see that barium is moving in the stomach and then into the duodenum till Disa flexure, since we are concentrating right now only on the stomach examination. Now, disadvantage is a small mucosal lesion like polyp or early carcinoma may not be demonstrated. We are talking of the single contrast. So, in single contrast, this lesion may be missed, but nowadays usually it is followed by a double contrast. So, when we will be discussing double contrast, we will come to it again. Again, it will be slightly repeated. Now, single contrast high kV technique. This is all to get a good picture. Now, barium sulfate 30% is used. X-rays are taken at 120 to 130 kV. This is technique we are talking, and this permits visualization of barium column so that lesions will not be drowned by low density barium. A lesion has got a lot of barium over it may get obscured. So for that reason we have to change the position, we have to apply the compression, and when you require we can go for a double contrast. Now what are the advantages of single contrast? For patients who are immobile or unable to swallow gas forming tablets, for them it is a comfortable. Then pylorospasm, fistulae and enlarged filling defects due to large masses in pylorus and duodenal region are more easily identified with a single contrast examination, because in double contrast, since they all things are getting distended, sometimes we may find difficulty in getting it. So the routine practice is first to go for a single contrast and then to go for a double contrast. There is nothing like direct double contrast, and if required you give a smooth muscle relaxant, that is for the hypotonicity. Now suspected gastric or duodenal obstruction, this is a advantage because we do not need to see any mucosal detail. Then what are disadvantages? The lack of sensitivity, independent small erosions, the linear ulceration, superficial gastric carcinomas, and subtle mucosal abnormalities can be missed in this technique. Now let's go to the double contrast. As I told you, always a single contrast examination is followed by a double contrast examination. So this is a routine. Preparation, technique, partially it is a repetition because you have to undergo first the barium coating. So let's see it again. Now preparation is a dry fluid-free stomach is essential. That's why we avoid smoking. That's why we ask patient to come NBM. Now a dry fluid-free stomach is essential. But when we don't get it, that is in pyloric stenosis. It is difficult to get stomach because retained secretions are there. But let's not take it as the routine. That is when you get history of pylorospasm, pyloric stenosis in that patient, sometimes you may not get. We are going to see it in our film reading session how it looks like. Because secretions will prevent adequate mucosal coating and may mimic tumors. So we do not want to have any false positive or false negative. Now contrast media is high density 200-250 mA, that is percent. Low viscosity barium sulfate is essential. Then anti-foaming agents which are added to the barium suspension prevent air bubbles formation as they mimic polyp, and gas forming agent, that is sodium carbonate and citric acid, are given orally. Now sometime we give it separately. Our department practice is to give them separately. First we give barium, we coat that as per the instructions to the patient. I have told you as per the rotation, as per the maneuvering we do, and then we give this combination of sodium bicarbonate and citric acid. They are coming along with the barium jar and they are kept inside separately. So smooth muscle relaxants are used only when they are required, that is Buscopan. It is usually given in IV dose, and as I told you that if you give Buscopan, you have to observe patients because patient may get blurring of the eyes and patient should be in the department till this settles down. Then it is contraindicated in glaucoma, then urinary retention, tachycardic diseases. So cardiac problem you have to check before. Poor general condition, don't try to give this. It is not required. We can adequately get good information with the sodium, that is sodium bicarbonate and citric acid combination. Then hemodynamic imbalances. These patients should be gently investigated. Any cardiac problem. Now injection of Biscomal IV should be given just before giving barium to study stomach. In order to study stomach and duodenum, injection is given when barium enters the duodenum. So you ask patient to swallow barium, you coat the barium, and once the barium is coated to the stomach, then you go for the hypotonicity. Now what is biphasic study? The technique 60 to 100 ml low viscosity mucosal relief film is taken as usual. Then 200 to 250 ml of barium is given orally in supine position with gas forming powder in last few mouthfuls. So first you do the routine technique and then you give foaming agent through the mouth and ask patient to swallow it. Patient is rotated for the mucosal coating, and there is a supine position to the right, prone position, left lateral, and either way. In other words, you have to rotate patient totally. Filming for various parts of the stomach and duodenum is done with the standard views. The table may be tilted 30 degrees head up or low to attain a maximum distension of the parts and a proper coating. When to obtain SWOT film is a prone oblique, right side down for duodenal cap, and C loop in a single contrast. Patient is quickly turned to supine with right side up oblique, and spot films are taken when the best gas distension of the duodenum occurs. Erect spot films with compression for duodenal bulb and compression of the film of the stomach and fluoroscopy. Now I'll tell you how we have to do it how we are doing it in our department. There are different methods as I specified. The first thing, we give a high density barium, we follow it from esophagus to the stomach, we ask patient to rotate, we see that it is coated properly. Once it is coated, we give patient gas forming agent, we ask them to swallow, and we take the films. The stomach is to be filmed in both supine, prone, and standing position. Duodenal bulb, the best positions are in standing position with obliquity. Now this is what we are seeing, a standard filming protocol. Now carcinoma of the stomach. The advanced gastric carcinoma can mimic like polypoid or fungating type or ulcerating type penetrating carcinomas. Both types are available, and infiltrating, that Keras type, that cause linitis plastica, that is non-distending small capacity stomach. Now carcinoma of stomach are the malignant ulcers, demonstrate macroscopic foci of malignancy usually at the edge of the ulcer. That is where we have to find from the barium study where the edges are, and they are often useful for a endoscopist because they know the location of the ulcer, and they also know from where to take the biopsies at the edges. That is the ulcerating malignancy. The mucosa is frequently nodular and the folds do not radiate to the base of the ulcer. That is how you differentiate a benign ulcer from a malignant ulcer. Now linitis plastica is a Keras carcinoma. It is a diffuse involvement of the walls of the stomach, frequently with the flattening of the mucosa, and poor distensibility is there of the stomach because it has got a small capacity, and contraction of the wall is restricted, associated with significant fibrous and muscular hypertrophy, and very frequently a signet ring type of lesions are seen. We have to diagnose ulcers. Now ulcer appearance on barium is specific. Now let's go into detail as how the different between the malignant and benign ulcer appear on the barium. It starts from the crater mucosal folds. Now first to the benign ulcers. They are round, ovoid, thin, irregular, extend up to the margin of the ulcer in benign, and while in malignant these are the thick, irregular, and do not extend to the crater edge. So that is the first differentiating point. Then the penetration. Penetration in benign ulcer, it extends beyond the projected margins of the wall centrally within mound of the edema. So that is the benign, and in malignant ulcer lie within, that is thickened wall, that is Kamen meniscus sign, essentially eccentrically in tumor mounted. So these two things will differentiate it. Now third is the collar. The Hampton's line, that is 1 to 2 mm lucent line around the ulcer, is called as a Hampton's line, that is present in the benign lesions, while a thick nodular irregular collar will be there in malignant lesion. Now what are the other differentiating points? Is a normal peristalsis in benign, incisura, invagination of the wall, that is in benign, and abnormal peristalsis limited dispensability is in the malignant ulcers. Now gastric ulcers, let us continue. Now what is the ulcer crater? If ulcer crater is on lesser curvature, round, linear, it has the neck of the ulcer is called as the ulcer crater. The Hampton's line is a collar, that is ulcer collar, or a narrow neck region. Now radial folds is the third thing which we have to observe. Then functional changes such as spastic incisura, then increased secretions, then increased or decreased peristalsis are the point which are in favor of benignity and malignancy differentiation. Then cicatricial changes, that is the gastric deformation and narrowing, will be seen in case of malignancy because of the submucosal involvement, muscularis involvement, and that will distort the shape and distensibility. Let's come to now duodenum. Now X-ray anatomy of duodenum is first thing to be seen. The duodenum is divided into 4 sections for the purpose of description. The first 3 sections form the C loop of the duodenum and lies between L1 to L3 vertebral bodies. Now duodenal bulb descends horizontal and then ascend. It has got 3 portions. The first portion is a bulb, then there is a descending, then there is a horizontal, and there is an ascending part. If you observe barium carefully, you can see all these 3 points or 4 segments very clearly. This should be known because the pathologies of 4 segments are different and they can be interpreted by knowing the anatomical location. Now papilla location on the descending part of the duodenum 1.5 centimeter in diameter. Now longitudinal fold in the bulb and feathery fold as jejunum in other sections will be seen. These are the appearances of duodenum. Then more than 90% location of the duodenal bulb shows the ulcer. So ulcer, the probability of getting duodenal ulcer is 90% in the duodenal bulb, that is the first part of duodenum, and most in anterior or posterior wall. Both can be visualized with well distended and well coated barium. Now crater is round, ovoid, then folds radiating to the edge of the ulcers and deformity of the bulb. Then irritation sign, then pylorospasm, gastric secretions are the few more with increase and change of the distension. Now if we are doing a barium, how the ulcers will look like in the duodenum is we'll find a ulcer crater, we'll find a ulcer niche. There may be deformity of the duodenal bulb if the ulcer is chronic, and if it is acute, we can find the folds, we can find the ulcer crater niche, and also we can see partially deformed but distending of the duodenal bulb. Now what are the types of hypotonic duodenography is about, we'll first discuss the technique. About 100 ml of the high density low viscosity barium is given orally. Patient is in prone position to get a better coating, and then with right side down. This is, we have to do this for the coating purpose. As soon as fully distended duodenal bulb is seen, Buscopan is given to get the distensibility. Now along with it we have to give gas producing powders, that is to coat, first coat and then to distend it, so that we will see each and every details including the fold of the first and second part of duodenum. Then barium enter third and fourth part subsequently, but before that we have to complete filming of first and second part, otherwise there will be overlapping. Now this is as far as barium given by mouth. Sometimes some people prefer that because of the barium filled in the stomach, duodenum will not be visualized properly. So why not put directly into a duodenum with the help of a tube? The tube used for this purpose is called Bilbo-Daughter tube, and it is passed into the first part of duodenum with the help of fluoroscopy. Then patient is in supine position, 50 ml of barium is injected through the tube and Buscopan is given intravenously. Now in these cases, often we fix a IV line in case if we find that certain things is going wrong, number one. Number two, we have to give Buscopan. So before introducing nasogastric tube, we have to fix up a angiocath or IV line so that we can give the Buscopan, we can get the distensity when we need, because during the fluoroscopy patient is going through the different maneuvers, and once the barium reaches the duodenum, sometimes the vestige of time may not be allowed. So immediately to do that, we have to first fix up the IV line. Now patient is turned so that the right side is up and air is injected. Now this technique is extremely important, because first we have to introduce a tube, then we have to get the hypotonicity by injecting a Buscopan through IV line, and then what we are doing is we are giving the barium and rotating patient so as to opacify the first and second part. Patient turn prone and more air is injected because we have got a tube in, so we can push the air and we can also achieve the distensibility because it is hypotonic. Then it gives the best distension as well as a best visualization of the mucosa. Now this is basically indicated when we have got a doubt about a duodenal ulcer. Most of the time they are picked in a routine technique, and this technique will not be required, which is slightly cumbersome to the patient. Now what are the alternative methods? We may ask patient to swallow bicarbonate powders and citric acid. That is extremely commonly available in the market. Sometimes citric acid is not there also. We can use the sodium bicarbonate powder, which is commercially available in small sachets, and we can ask patient to drink it along with some barium. And if it is available, then the sachet is provided in the barium jar itself, which contain in different packets soda bicarb and citric acid. This will liberate gas when the mixture will reach the stomach. Patient is then asked to resist the urge to burp. Otherwise, whatever gas we have produced will go away. So patient has to cooperate, and for that reason we have to explain patient before doing this procedure. Now the gas will distend the stomach and also pushes the barium to coat the lining of the stomach and duodenum, and this makes the X-ray pictures much cleaner and we will get very superior quality pictures. Now next is a small bowel. We have seen now technique for stomach, we have seen now technique for the duodenum, and now we are seeing technique for the small bowel, that is called as barium meal follow through. Now what is a barium meal follow through? This taste is similar to barium meal but aims to look for the problems in the small intestine, but the barium has to pass through the esophagus, stomach, duodenum and then into the small bowel. Therefore patient has to wait for 10 to 15 minutes before the X-rays are taken, because the barium crosses stomach, waits for gastric emptying, then enters the duodenum, and then our series starts. This allows time for the barium to reach the small intestine. X-rays may be taken every 30 minutes or so until the barium is seen passing through it entirely into the large bowel, that is to the ileocecal junction. Now to estimate time of 30 minutes is sometimes not a correct thing. We have to take film after giving the barium and guess what is the transit time. Transit time is a time taken by barium to travel from the duodenum up to ileocecal junction. It varies from 30 minutes to 3 hours. So it may happen that if we delay, the barium will go into the large bowel and will end up with not a good study. So for that reason, first film you take immediately after patient swallows. Even though there is an indication for small bowel, we may get the barium in the stomach, it doesn't matter. After 15 minutes you take the film and you know where the barium is. But once the barium goes from jejunum to ileum, everywhere that will be seen as the barium and will not be able to appreciate the changes of the mucosa. So best is to go without fixing a timing. That is, first you take after 5 minutes, then you take after 10 minutes or 20 minutes. That depends on how barium is traveling, and it is not a fixed thing for all the patients. So you cannot have mathematics here. Now segments of the small bowel visualized are duodenum, then proximal jejunum in left upper abdomen. Now here we have to see the location correctly to diagnose malrotation. So it has to be on left side jejunum, Dizzy flexure and jejunum. Then distal jejunum on the left side, proximal ileum on the right side, slightly right of the middle line in the abdomen, and distal ileum on the right lower abdomen or in pelvis cavity. Emptying time here is from 2 hours to 6 hours. Sometimes we can get even less than 30 minutes. It is normal. Now for that methods are single contrast with addition of a effervescent agent, with addition of a pneumocolon technique. But by and large, in most of the cases, we use a single contrast. Now, what are the indications for it? Is a diarrhea, anemia, partial obstruction, malabsorption, abdominal masses. Then contraindications are complete obstruction and suspected perforations. These are the contraindications. Then X-ray anatomy of the small bowel. We must know mucosal folds are feathery, they are circular. Then there are 6 sections: duodenum, proximal jejunum on the left side of the upper abdomen, then distal jejunum on the left side and middle of the abdomen, then the proximal ileum on the right and middle of the abdomen, then distal ileum on the right lower abdomen or in pelvic cavity. The emptying time here 2 to 6 hours, as I told you, is extremely deceptive. Now small bowel diseases, what is there can be? There can be ulcer, there can be obstruction, there can be post-operative ileus, there can be Crohn's disease. Then the signs and symptoms include pain, hematemesis, distension and diarrhea. Now X-ray findings of the basic pathologies. The changes of the wall, there will be mound filling defects, then intraluminal masses, then there will be craters, that is a collection of barium on dependent surface, that is called ulcer crater. Then thickened wall, then irregularity, lack of distensibility are the pathological findings. They must be picked up along with the barium. Now along with this, certain changes can occur in barium, like barium column can get segmentation, fragmentation, flocculation, distensibility. This also needs to be seen along with the dilution of barium. These things are important when we are diagnosing malabsorption syndrome or irritable bowel syndrome. In that, all these things are important. So also segmentation of barium column is required when we are diagnosing a case of abdominal COX. Now changes of the mucosal folds will be destruction of the mucosa, thickening of the mucosa, flattening of the mucosa and radiating folds. These will be the changes. Now changes of the lumen will be, there will be narrowing, there will be distension, or there will be loss of distension, that is the contraction. So these are the changes that can happen with lumen. Then excavated lesions. Now tuberculosis of intestine. What will happen? There will be a spasm and irritability. Speculations, scarred bowel margins from tiny multiple ulceration, which may or may not be found on the routine barium study. Then coarser, more granular mucosa will be seen. Shortening of the colon, that is because there will be fibrosis of the ascending colon and ileocecal junction will be pulled up. Then loss of the haustrations of the left side of the colon, that is again involvement of terminal ileum and ileocecal junction. And post-inflammatory changes include polyps, that is filiform polyps or long worm-like lesions. This will be a diagnosis of tuberculosis. But the most important thing are the multiple subacute obstructions. We will find sometime hypertrophied lymphatics along with the findings which we have narrated just now. Now, intussusception by and large is common with ileocecal junction. However, there can be intussusception with ileo-ileal, jejunal-ileal or otherwise in occasionally rare conditions. Now what it is a telescoping of the segment of the bowel, that is intussusceptum into another usually more distal segment of the bowel, that is called into incipient. So these are the two things which are is to be identified, but they are best identified on ultrasound. Now what will be clinical findings? Child will be less than 2 years, then there will be cyclic colonic abdominal pain, vomiting, and current jelly stools. That is a very characteristic where the clinician suspects the diagnosis of intussusception, diarrhea with mucus and blood or other blood in the stools. Intussusception by and large nowadays is more commonly diagnosed on ultrasound, but in earlier days it was used to be diagnosis on barium enema, and not only that, after barium enema there was hydrostatic reduction. But nowadays both the things are replaced with ultrasound. Ultrasound not only can diagnose it properly, but it helps us to reduce it by a hydrostatic technique. That we'll be discussing when we'll apply or when we'll be seeing the applications of ultrasound in certain therapeutic cases. Now, classic triad occurs about 1/3 of the patient, that is, most have 2 to 3 palpable abdominal masses, often in the right upper abdominal quadrant. So this is a common clinical presentation where clinician suspects it. Now, plain radiographs are not sensitive or specific. It may be normal, it may not be normal. Now what it will show is soft tissue masses around the crescent of the gas, then evidence of the distal small bowel obstruction will be there, but this again is not a very common finding. Then absence of the, because on plain X-ray to get this diagnosis of the small bowel will take time, but before that patient will be diagnosed on ultrasound, and maybe with hydrostatic pressure patient will be free of it. So this is a late sign, and often nowadays it is difficult to see because we are diagnosing it early. Then absence of discrete gas in the colon, then is the pneumoperitoneum, and X-ray may be normal, which is in most of the cases what we have observed. X-rays were normal, maybe because they were detected by clinicians early, we had detected them on ultrasound early, but before doing ultrasound procedure also we have to go for a scout film to know the perforation. Now what is that was incidentally we have just spoken, not from this topic. Now barium enema is diagnostic as well as therapeutic. Now here we can either use barium or the gas, but nowadays what we are using is water and ultrasound. So ultrasound guided and hydrostatic reduction is done by the saline. So coil spring appearance is characteristic. The barium and lumel of the intussusceptum and in the intraluminal space can be seen between the intussusceptum and the intusincipients are also a signs described in barium. Now, intestinal obstruction. It's a mechanical or functional obstruction of the intestine, preventing the normal transit of the products of the digestion. So that will block it. Now, what are the mechanical small bowel obstructions? Adhesions, valvulus, gallstone ileus. We should not call it technically as the mechanical obstruction. Then intussusception, then causes may be visible on plain X-ray. Now what is mechanical obstruction subdivision? Are a tumor, valvulus, hernias, diverticulum, and intussusception can cause mechanical obstructions. Now continuing it further, the single small bowel obstruction can be there, simple small obstruction can be there, then strangulated intestinal obstructions, they are more common with the hernias, and paralytic intestinal obstruction particularly with electrolyte imbalances and in postoperative status, and the colonic obstructions. The most important role in the intestinal obstruction is played by the plain X-ray, and plain X-ray versus the diagnosis of obstruction is elaborately covered. Now X-ray features are multiple gas distended intestinal loops with fluid levels in erect film. That is the very characteristic finding in a small bowel obstruction. We have got separate videos in which we have shown how many pathologies of ultrasound can be detected on plain X-ray, and there are really multiple abnormalities which we can see. Now this is a small bowel follow through. Now first you can see the distended stomach, then you can see the C loop of duodenum, you can see feathery appearances of the jejunum, and you can see the ileum also. Now in further film, the barium is traversing now to ileocecal junction, crossing it and going into the large bowel. So this was a normal. Now again here we are showing a normal study pertaining to ileocecal junction. The timing is written 1 hour, 2 hours and 2 hours in third film also. That is note that here what we have to notate. We have to notate. Now let us start from left side, uppermost film. You are seeing multiple dilated small bowel loops, but the loops are crowded on the right side. So that is the place for the, that is wrong place for the jejunum. So there is a malrotation. Then you are seeing the dilated second part of duodenum. So ultimate diagnosis comes as the first and second film is the dilated first and second part of duodenum with malrotation. So top on the list should be band of Ladd. Now dilated second and third part of duodenum, annular pancreas and web strictures will come if there is no malrotation. That will be particularly seen in some of the cases. I have shown you multiple cases where you are finding malrotation, that is because of band of Ladd. And when there is no malrotation, it is because of, you think of annular pancreas or web and strictures. So different cases demonstrating different pathologies. Here also dilated segments of ileum, over descended stomach and barium go into the biliary tract. That also you can see in some of the films. These all are different patients. Now let's go from left side up. We are seeing multiple dilated ileal loops. Multiple dilated ileal loops in first and second patient can occur usually in case of multiple small bowel strictures, that is a tuberculosis. And then we are seeing in fifth patient, that is the malrotation. Then we are seeing in the last two, that I said two films are there. Plain film is showing dilated jejunum and the second barium film is showing there is a obstruction at mid ileum causing multiple dilated bowel loops and fluid levels. So it was detected on plain X-ray, and here please note we do not use barium. So what is used is water soluble contrast examination is water soluble. Now let's come to the down row, that is left first and second. We are seeing a dilated stomach and obstruction at second part of duodenum. Now here, if there is malrotation, then you think of band of Ladd. If not, then you think of the annular pancreas web or strictures. Occasionally, if barium can travel into the biliary tree, that we are seeing, and in that case you think of the obstruction distal to the ampulla of water. So if there is obstruction, then barium or water soluble contrast can migrate into the biliary tree. Now here we are seeing multiple dilated small bowel loops, that is the small bowel obstruction, and then are the diaphragmatic hernias. Now here what we are seeing are the all jejunal loops are lying on the right side. Then there are multiple dilated loops of jejunum suggestive of obstruction. So is a mid jejunal obstruction with malrotation. In this patient we are seeing first is plain X-ray, then are the barium series. Again to remind that in these studies we are using water soluble contrast examination and barium is not used, and that you decide when you see a first film. Now here again you are seeing malrotations, then multiple different cases. Now here I am pausing for some time. You can have a look at on the basis of what we have spoken. We think of the abdominal cox when we find the changes at ileocecal junction, that is the opening of ileocecal angle, then pulling up of the cecum, that is ileocecal junction. The cecum will be either contracted, truncated, or it will be fibrosed, and ileocecal junction is pulled up. Then there may be small bowel changes, particularly multiple partially distending loops suggestive of multiple strictures. Now on sonography there are beautiful signs of all these things. We can get hypertrophied lymph nodes, we can get mesenteric changes, and also we can get the dilated bowel loops. So lot of time the investigation of barium is replaced by the sonography. So here are the cases of abdominal cox, then In neonate, we have to think of the jejunal atresia, that is a below and intestinal obstruction. Then intestinal reduction we are seeing or showing is by the technique what we had described was the hydrostatic, but this is the ultrasonic diagnosis. And now here what we are saying is small bowel obstruction in upper and second part of duodenal obstruction in lower films. Upper film is showing small bowel obstruction, that is barium, and down is the second part of duodenum obstruction. Now here what we are seeing, a malrotation with dilated second part of duodenum. Now if you see this location of cecum, you can be fairly confident in saying it is a band of Ladd that is causing, that is the mesenteric abnormality. But fairly accurately you can diagnose it with the help of barium is the main aim of showing this. Now intussusception is shown on both ways. Here we are seeing mid small bowel obstruction, the jejunum is dilated. Earlier, few days here, we used to have a barium examination for diagnosing appendicitis. Now appendicitis nowadays is not diagnosed on barium. It's a totally outdated technique. This is shown just to tell you that it was used. Now let us know how the technique was. We were giving barium till it crosses ileocecal junction. Then we were noting down whether the appendix was seen or not. So first step, non-visualization appendix on first day or first examination, or non-visualization. If the appendix was visualized, then ask patient to come after 24 hours. Now what was happening is that appendix should fill and it should empty. Then we were used to call it as a normal. If appendix was filling, showing multiple filling defects, then it was diagnosed as the appendicitis. And non-filling of appendicitis, again appendix was again diagnosed as the case of chronic appendicitis. Now here we are seeing obstruction at jejunum of duodenojejunal junction. This is a case of intussusception. This has come in the discussion, so we are showing it. Now this is a malrotation. You are seeing it, there is no dilatation of second part of duodenum. So there is no band of Ladd. And what we are seeing here is the total malrotation. Here we are seeing is obstruction to second part of duodenum. Both are different cases. In first case we are seeing distended stomach also. The distension of stomach is not because of pylorospasm, it is not because of pyloric stenosis, but it is because of the obstruction at second part of duodenum. Here again we have to follow it up for the malrotation or not. While talking of the preparation of the patient, we were talking about the retained secretions. Now as far as possible, we ask patient to come NBM. Patient is reliably NBM. In spite of that, if you are finding that there is a retained secretion, over distended stomach, then hyperperistaltic waves, or even no peristaltic waves. If stomach get over distended, we may not get it. There may not be any peristalsis. So this was the earlier technique to show pyloric stenosis. Nowadays it is replaced with ultrasound, number one, and number two, again barium has got some role to play in case of pyloric stenosis, since it is a dynamic study. As I told you that it is also important to know peristalsis of the esophagus. It is also important to know the emptying of the stomach, which is best seen in this series. Now that we have seen is adult type. This is an infantile type. This is also, you can see the pyloric region show hypertrophic mucosa, hypertrophic muscularis, beautifully on ultrasound, and this no more needs a barium study. However, here a small technique is modified by us in taking a plain X-ray, that we introduce some amount of air to know the distension, number one, and number two is to know the hyperperistalsia, and then we introduce preferably water soluble contrast instead of barium to know what is the gastric emptying time. Now here we are seeing is regurg from the ampulla of Vatal, because there is a stent. That stent can be easily seen, so this should not be given much importance. For us, what is more important is the obstruction at mid jejunum. So regurg interbiliary due to obstruction at junction and duodenum jejunum. Here this is distal small bowel obstruction, a straightforward case. We have seen many cases. Many cases will be seen in the subsequent days because we have got tutorials in which we will be showing you different cases. As and when there will be more and more videos, we will be showing you more and more cases, and most of the time the cases are not repeated, they are fresh cases. Now in this we have seen a role of barium. I agree it's limited. I agree it is replaced with most of the better technique. In spite of that, there are certain things in which it has got still role. So we have seen the role of barium in stomach, especially gastric emptying is very important, peristalsis is very important. It can also diagnose certain small bowel pathologies. How to modify a technique to see better ulceration of the duodenum, that also we have seen. How to compare a benign lesion of the stomach from a malignant lesion of the stomach in malignancy, that also we have seen. So with all these things, we do believe that though it's a old technique, it is not totally outdated. Still there is role for us. There are indications, and if there is no availability of ultrasound, which I believe is extremely rare and extremely difficult, then we can still try and go for the barium. With this, we are coming almost to the end of the lecture. Now I thank you for giving me your valuable time. Please note, radiology is not a race, it's a process. Be a part of it and enjoy the feast of knowledge. I am Dr. Anil Joshi, logging off till we meet again. Again reminding you, there is nothing like anything getting outdated. We may require at some or other stage of the patient, maybe because of the center, maybe because of the patient's financial situation, or maybe circumstances. We should be aware of all the techniques that were used in the past, also used in the present tense, and we should make best use of it to the patients. Thank you again. Do your best and give your best skill, best experience to help the benefit mankind, so that more and more patients will. Thank you. Take care.